Hey everybody, I'm Garcia, and today I'm taking a look at the second large expansion to the fantastic 5 tribes, Whims of the Sultan. The central piece of this expansion is, of course, the Whims of the Sultan themselves, which are cards that are acquirable now, and you can get those and go fulfill a small mission given to you by the Sultan, and once you do so, he will reward you with riches. And you can go back and pick up some more, you can ignore them completely if you so choose. It is simply a new way to gather victory points. Besides that, there are a few other things in here that you can add to your game, such as the ability to play with a 5th player. So, let me show you what comes in the box. I'm not going to teach you how to play 5 tribes. If you do want to find that out, go check out our video for that. And then come on back to this one so that you can find out about this expansion and if it enhances the base game. So, here we go. So here's everything that comes with the expansion. You are going to have several of these, one per player. That tells you on this side the Whims of the Sultan cards right here. I'll talk about those later. And then on the other side, the new tiles and the new djinns right here. You are also going to get a few new meeples to be used with the extra tiles, of course. You need more of these now, so you're going to get some more of those. And you also have over here components for the game to be played with 5 players. So you have a new player color, and it even includes the tent. So if you were playing this with the first expansion, the Artisans of Nakala, then you'd need that. And then you have these down here to play with 5 players. You only need these to play with 5 players. 5 spots for the turn order, as well as a new bidding track, which includes multiple spaces where you can be pushed. So instead of just being the 0 where you can be pushed, as in the original game, you now can be pushed elsewhere, reducing some of the costs for 5 players. So that's when you would use those. Besides that, we have some more money, just so that we don't run out. And then the meat of the game is basically what's left here. Your new score pad, which is going to account for the new things. And yes, it includes everything from the artisans right on here, so you can just use the one pad. And then the new djinns, new tiles, let's talk about those, all right? So we've got this one here, which is an impassable tile, and all it does, besides break up the landscape, of course, is at the end of the game, for every tile adjacent to it, that means all 8 tiles adjacent to it, or possibly 8, the tree values and the palace values are going to be doubled. So, for example, having a palace over here in this tile right here, that's going to score you 10 points for each palace instead of 5. Very cool, passive power, but definitely something to watch out for depending on how the randomized setup ends up looking. And then you have these, which are all basically the same power. And the idea here is that you want to control as many of these as possible because the scores there are monumental. If you control a single one, that's 5 victory points. If you control 2 of them, the total is 10 times 2, that's 20 points. If you control 3, that's 15 times 3, that's 45 points. All the way up to having them all, which is 125 points. And if you've played the game, and I assume you have if you're watching this, that is a massive, massive part of your score. So, moral of the story is don't let, one single person control all of these, which could be hard, but try to fight that. Now, besides that, we have a couple of djinns here, and they tie into what's going on in the expansion, of course. This one, every time you get pushed, you are going to get two coins, rather. And then every time you push someone on the bidding track, you get 1 coin. Same thing for this one. Every time you get one of these Whims of the Sultan cards, you get 1 coin. Every time someone else does it, you get 2 coins. And then we get to the meat of the game itself, the name here of the expansion, which is these Whims of the Sultan cards. Now these are going to show up on these tiles here. You would just place one on those at the beginning of the game. And if someone ends their turn on that tile, you will take that card, and whenever you qualify for what the Sultan would like to see happen, you cash this in and you get whatever's across the bottom. So for example, in this case, and by the way, these are all right here on the sheet. If you control one of the corners in this case with one of your camels, you get 10 gold pieces for that, and then you cash that in and you get that money. If when you grab it, by the way, you automatically qualify for this, you already own one of the corners, you can just cash this in right then and there, or hold on to it until you do. These are worth nothing at the end of the game if you still have not used them. And there's a few different things like that. So for example, this one you get 10 if you control 4 of the yellow characters there. This one, if you assassinate an assassin, you get 10 for that. If you control 2 palm trees on any of your tiles, 10 for that. This one, if you have 3 tiles, adjacent tiles that you control, you get 15 for that, and so on. There's a few different ones that all, would get you money, depending on if you can manage to pull off something specific that the Sultan wants. And again, some of these do tie to the Artisans expansion, so you probably want to pull those out. They do have a symbol if you are not playing with that expansion. All right, and that's basically it. Once these have been taken, they're not refilled immediately. They are refilled when everything else would be. And so at the end of the round, then you can put another one out there. Someone else could show up, take that, and it goes on from there. So that should give you an idea of everything that is included in the expansion. How does it change the game? Is it worth adding to the core set? Let's go back up top and let me tell you. All right, so there it is. Let's talk about this expansion. I'm going to break it down a little bit here. Use these to help me make my points. So we're going to start off with thematic ties as it fold into the original base game well. And I think it does. I think it does quite well. I like the idea of the Sultan sort of sending you out on little missions, a little bit. Things you want to go grab, pick up, and then accomplish, and you'll get a small bonus. As I said in the intro, this is not necessarily something you want to do or feel compelled to do. It's just a new avenue. It's something else that you might want to pursue. And I like that. They're not so powerful that they derail the various strategies that were already to be found in the game. But I like the way that they are implemented. And it's a fairly straightforward concept. I like that. The aesthetics are great. The game matches the original look of the game. Everything fits in nicely. The new color for the 5th player, I think, is quite distinct from the other one. So that's also very nice. No issues with the aesthetics here whatsoever for me. Replayability. I think the replayability is certainly enhanced from the original game, which is ultimately what a good expansion should do, besides sort of refresh what you already knew. And again, I don't think this one derails what was happening in the original, but it does refresh it for me, and it gives me a solid amount of replayability again. New things to consider, new things to do. And I sometimes do play the game where I don't concern myself with that, because everybody seems to be worrying about it, and do something else, which is just, enhancing the possible tactics and strategies you can take. The game length. I did not find this to affect the overall game length. There are more tiles. There is a little bit more going on, and especially if you combine this expansion and the previous large expansion, Artisans of Nacala, then there is a lot more going on, and you will. It should be a little bit longer, but it was not terribly. It did not outstay its welcome, in my opinion. I did not find that adding this expansion made the game feel too long, and so I had no problem with that. I think the game length is just fine. Ease of play. How easy is this to add to the original game? Do I have any problems with that? I think adding the tile that enhances the bonuses for everything around it is fine. I think adding a 5th player is unnecessary, but it's there if you want to do it. I don't necessarily want to play with 5, and it just adds more, a little more downtime, I guess, a little bit more going on. I like the game at 4 just fine. As far as the new cards, that's certainly one of my favorite things in here, or I guess you could say it is my favorite thing, the actual Whims, because they're so diverse. And so you can acquire them a single way, but they are very diverse in how you accomplish them. The new tiles that exponentially score you victory points or control points, that I'm not so sure about, and I'm of two minds when it comes to that. I do find that they are important. They're grand, and on the one hand, they make an impression when you first explain them. They're not hard to grasp necessarily. The scoring's a little funny, but they're not hard to grasp. However, they feel a little unbalanced, and I don't know if they are. I'm no game designer, so I would assume that the game designer, especially when this is the third expansion technically to the game, that they know what they're doing. But it doesn't matter if they are or not, if they ultimately feel that way, because they will change what players perceive as good and bad, and they'll pursue that thing. I think the scoring just seems extremely powerful for those. Having 3 of them being 45 points, that's very strong, very powerful. So I'm not sure if it's fine, and you just need to sort of keep it in the back of your mind to not let one player run away with it. But even having to do that, I'm not so sure I thoroughly enjoy that, I don't want to be forced to not pursue a strategy I want to try or like or whatever the case may be, because I have to stop so-and-so from getting 125 points. So while it may be balanced, I don't necessarily like the way they score. Lastly, tactics and strategy and luck, anything like that. I sort of talked about it just a second ago. I do enjoy parts of it quite a bit. Certainly the whims, certainly the new tile that doubles the scores around it, all of those things. And overall, I like the expansion quite a bit. I'm just not... My main sticking point is those massive scoring tiles. And it sort of just nudges players to play one specific way or incorporate one specific way into the way they're playing, maybe a hair more than I would like them to. So ultimately, yes, this is a good expansion. I enjoy it very much. I'm happy to play with it. Is it an automatic inclusion in the game when I'm playing? Not at all. But I like the variety. And I certainly really, really like the Whims of the Sultan. And part of me does wish that I could play those without having to play that scoring style from those locations, But it's fine. If I'm going to play it, I throw everything in there and I play with it, and it is a satisfactory game, if a little bit different. So I like the expansion, happy to play it. I don't want to, again, this is a game that I adore. This is a game I rate very, very highly. So if I sound like I'm being more nitpicky when I finally tell you, what I'm going to give this game, if I sound like I'm being harsher now than when I ultimately give it a seal, it's because I adore the game. So anything less than, basically perfection was going to get some nitpicks, But I don't think you should avoid the expansion if you like the game. I think you should definitely get it. It adds wonderful stuff to your gaming experience with 5 Tribes. So having said all that, this one's going to get a seal of approval from me. Definitely go check it out. This isn't going to change your mind if you don't like 5 Tribes. But if you do, you owe it to yourself to pick this up and see if you can fulfill the whims of the Sultan. I'm Z Garcia. I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.